Folks, the Mariners are back to 2 games over 500, that is. Our thoughts on the big win and the small trade Seattle made coming up here on the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Wednesday, July 26, 2023. This is Trident Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners postgame show, brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks, and you can win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code Locked On, and you'll get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. Thank you so much for making us your first listen after the game. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you're part of the crew and rock with us every single day, let us know in the comments below. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. You can now get a free 7-day trial to check out the show. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description of this episode. 8-7, the final score from Target Field. Dylan Moore and Julio Rodriguez do the heavy lifting as the Mariners get back to 2 games over 500 with a big win over the Minnesota Twins. So naturally, Colby, the Mariners, of course, should now trade Cody Bellinger. Is that right? Do I have that right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, yeah, obviously. They're clearly a very good team. If they had Bellinger, they sweep these last 2 series, and all of a sudden they're
Sure.
4 or 5 games over 500 and very much in the race. And, they are also very much in the race right now. So, yeah, go get them the help they've earned. So, yeah, you win back-to-back series against good playoff teams. You've earned some help. Go get it. And, all due respect to Trent Thornton, that's not help. So, go get real help, like Cody Bellinger.
We will talk about the Trent Thornton deal later on in the show. We're going to spend like 2 minutes on it just to make that clear, but yeah, we will talk about it. All right, so Dylan Moore, like I said, had a big day, and you sent me a very interesting message while we were both watching the game about a couple hours ago after he hit his second of 2 home runs today. You said Dylan Moore, quote, is a god. You heard it here first, folks. Colby Patnode has seen the light.
Yeah, back in 2020, when I was the first one to actually say Dylan Moore should get all the playing time at second base. And you and Joe Doyle, friend of the show, sat there and told me, no, you should go get Colton Wong instead. Well.
I did not.
Well.
Also, I believe it was John Troopin, not Joe Doyle.
No, Joe was there.
Joe was there? Okay. Maybe it was both of them. Yeah.
You're probably right, but Joe was definitely there, and I say that just to point out the fact that I beat you again, Joe. Again.
Right.
But
Colby says that he knows more than Joe Doyle. That's right.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's been proven over and over again.
Locked On Mariners exclusive. Yep.
Yeah, all Joe is like what I don't know what his title is, but he's like the expert at like at Future Stars series, which is probably the best prospect service in the country right now. So,
but
no, I got you. Like I like, you can give me a call. I'll teach you anything you want to know.
Yeah. Well, all of that support for Dylan Moore in 2020 was undone by how you felt about him last year and what you said about him all of last year.
That's fair. Sure.
So there you go. But my belief, it never wavered.
You never had any to begin with.
Not one bit. No.
Not when you said that they should put him on the IL again.
I was Dylan Moore's biggest fan. I totally did not get on this show 2 weeks ago and say, they should go Cy-L him or, send him down to AAA because he clearly cannot hit major league pitching. Definitely did not say that.
I'm pretty sure your exact words are he should be the starting center fielder and they should bench Julio. I'm pretty sure that's what you said.
Right. That's actually what I said. Yeah. So Demo is 7 for his last 16. He has, 6 extra base hits during that time, including the 2 home runs that I mentioned today. That includes a big 3-run home run that gave the Mariners some much needed insurance because the pitching today was not particularly great. We will talk about that a little later on. But I mean, at least for now, we got the deadline coming up in 6 days. Should Dylan Moore be playing every single day for the Mariners right now?
More or less. I mean, there's really no reason to. We don't know exactly how he feels physically. He appears to be fine, but we haven't seen him play. I don't think we've seen him play more than twice in a row. So, yeah, well, I mean, I don't know how he's feeling physically, but yeah, in theory he should, because he's a hot bat right now, and you have the at bats to give. I mean, I know Colton Wong's looked a little bit better as of late, but you're not letting that stop you from putting your best guys out there. So, yeah, and kind of the beauty of Dylan Moore, because of the versatility, is that you don't even have to take away more at bats from anybody else just to get Dylan Moore his at bats, because you could just, on a day off, just a scheduled day off, Dylan Moore could be in the lineup. And this is a good way. We've talked about this, right? How the Mariners starters played so many games. They had so few days off. And it's because the Mariners weren't utilizing their bench. Now they can. If Dylan Moore is going to hit like, Dylan Moore did even last year, where it's mostly on base driven and he's got some pop, that helps you a tremendous amount, because yeah, it would be nice to give JP more than one day off every, 6-7 weeks. That'd be nice for JP too, I'm sure. It'd be nice to give Gino a day off. It'd be nice to give, Julio a day off. And now without Jared Kelenic in the mix, you kind of need that platoon bat to go up there against lefties. And that's always been Dylan Moore's, bread and butter. So yeah, I think Moore should be in the lineup a lot going forward. There's really no reason for him not to be, unless, of course, we see what they do at the deadline. Right. So, but until then, yes, he should be in the lineup as much as he can physically handle it, and as much as the matchups allow. There are just some pitchers where Colton Wong is going to be a better matchup, and it's not necessarily lefty righty. It's just stuff, all that stuff. So
sure.
There are going to be times where Moore's going to have to sit on the bench, sure, but yeah, as if it's a toss up, you should probably give it to Moore at most positions, and just ride out this hot streak as much as you can, because you don't know when it's going to go away. And I know that riding streaky bats is not the best way to go for the long term, but you rode out the Mike Ford hot streak, and he kept you afloat as a result. And so you're kind of hoping to do the same here. It's not the best plan in the world, but I think it's based on what you have on your roster right now. It is the best way to go.
It's all you can do right now, really. It's your only option. So yeah. So it's been a nice little stretch for Demo, who's playing a lot more often now too. So, and the Mariners have reaped the rewards of that so far. Julio has had a really nice 2-game stretch here. Obviously had the big game last night with 2 home runs, including a clutch 2-run home run to tie the game.
How did that taste coming out of your mouth, Ty?
About damn time is what I'll say about that.
Okay,
about damn time. Yeah, very, very excited about that. And then he came back today and picked up right where he left off. Leadoff double in the first, scores, home run his next time up. Had an awful at bat with the bases loaded, nobody out, but we'll ignore that.
Sure.
He had a hustle double the next time up. I think he scored after that, right?
Yeah, Gino drove him in.
Gino drove him in. Yeah. So really nice 2 days here for Julio. So is he back?
Man, I hope so. It was nice to see Julio back in the leadoff spot. I do think ultimately that's where I want him to be. But he has to earn it. And today he was there because JP was scheduled to get a day off anyways, but he also did take a pitch right off the side of his knee yesterday. So I'm sure there's some swelling there. But he was there kind of by default, like legitimately, if not Julio, who hits leadoff? It might have been Colton Wong, or Dylan Moore. Julio, he was great today. I think the rule is if you go 3 for 5 with 2 doubles and a home run, you're not allowed to pick apart the bases loaded in the 4th inning at bat. I think you just give him a pass on that one, but no, I mean, it's been great the last couple days. It's pretty interesting. Julio's strikeout rate is steadily going down, and it's back to where it was last year. His walk rate is what it was last year. So there are some signs that Julio is starting to turn the corner already. Obviously games like this help. Games like last night help, and they just kind of get rolling in the right direction. And momentum is something else. And it's funny. You look at Julio the last 2 days, and the Mariners offense has exploded and scored 17 runs in the last 2 days.
Yeah.
Gee, I wonder why. It's because Julio looks like a superstar again.
Yeah.
So I sure hope he's back.
Yeah, and we talked after the Blue Jays series when he had a couple of chances late in games and he didn't come up.
Mhm.
That it's just we're waiting for him to actually be able to come through in these moments and just get one, because I think once he gets one, he'll start to get rolling here. And I mean, lo and behold, again he picks up right where he left off today and has a huge game. So
Mhm.
hopefully he keeps that going. Mariners get a much needed day off tomorrow before they face the Arizona Diamondbacks. You can catch that series on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. So we're going to talk about the Mariners pitching today, specifically Bryce Miller. It was a weird day for Miller, so we're going to go over that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners postgame show is brought to you by Sleeper. Are you using the Sleeper app for daily fantasy baseball? Want to times your money by 100? Sleeper is now offering up to a 100 times payout for up to 8 pick contests. Choose as many as 8 players that you like and pick more or less on your favorite baseball stats like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right, you can win big. If you think Julio's going yard like today, add him to your lineup. If you think Luis Castillo's striking out 6 or more, add him to your lineup. Making your picks is easy and takes only 30 seconds or less. And if you win, you can withdraw your payouts safe and quickly. Use promo code Locked On, that's LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Thank you again for making us your first listen after the Mariners 8-7 win over the Minnesota Twins. Again, they have an off day tomorrow. They'll get back after it on Friday against the Arizona Diamondbacks down in Phoenix. You can catch all the action on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. So, weird day for Bryce Miller. He started out really well, but then gave up 4 solo home runs, 6 earned runs in total, 8 hits over 5 and 2/3 innings pitched, struck out 7, 0 walks. Before we get into the struggles here, Colby, we saw a little bit of a wrinkle from Miller today with the changeup, and it actually worked pretty well for him through 8 changeups. Not a whole lot, but on those 8 changeups, half of them resulted in a swing and a miss. So what did you think about that, again, before we get into the negatives of his day?
Yeah, it was actually a really good pitch, and it was kind of surprising to see him use it because we have heard about Bryce Miller's changeup, but he's really stuck to fastball slider even against the lefties, and Minnesota stacked lefties in their lineup the last 2 days, and part of that is just roster construction. They have a lot of lefties, but the other part of it is a legitimate game plan, and we saw it work against both Kirby and Miller today. They got the fastballs in the zone, and they were aggressive with them. But the counter that Miller came up with, it was a really good changeup, the best changeup we've seen from Miller. And he's flashed it once or twice. I remember him throwing a couple good ones against the Braves and whatnot. But for the most part, it's been fastball slider. And today it was just a really good changeup. It was between 83 and 87 miles an hour. Average of 84.6. The fastball was the average fastball was 96 today, 96 today. So it's a pretty good difference. And we saw some fade and some good tumble to the pitch too. And we saw a lot of bad swings, which tells me that he's sold it really well to the hitters. Same arm speed, same same arm slot and all that stuff. So yeah, it was a pretty interesting pitch to see him use. It was probably his best pitch, although the slider wasn't half bad either. Yeah, it was interesting to say the least. And it was probably born out of necessity, but it is nice to if he could consistently have that changeup going forward, Miller's like a number 2 starter at some point in his career.
Yeah,
because he throws plenty of strikes and yeah, the fastball again. It's a really good fastball, but he has to have a slider and a changeup if he's going to be a mid rotation or better starter. And today he had both. He just a little bit unlucky. It seems like every time he was in the zone, it got hit hard. So yeah, kind of a weird day for Bryce Miller.
Yeah, so he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hard hit balls given up today. Thankfully, all the home runs again were solo shots, so they didn't do a ton of damage, but they did help the Twins get back into this game, even when it looked like the Mariners were going to cruise to a win. And that ultimately made today's game pretty interesting when it really didn't need to be. But that said, they still won the game. So yeah, just kind of a bump of the road for Miller, or something we should be concerned about.
I'm a little concerned that he seemed to wear down a little bit in the 4th and 5th inning. He had a long break with the blister, and the first 2 times out, the Mariners were really careful with his pitch count to try and make sure the blister didn't open back up again. So yeah, I do wonder, innings wise, he's fine, but at some point you still hit a wall. And so I do wonder if maybe we're getting to that point with Miller, but he'll have an extra day off now between this and his next start, which will be against Boston, which is pretty interesting and tough test for him, but he'll be back at T-Mobile, and I think he'll be fine going forward. Like, I don't think that this is Miller like running out of ammo, right? I think this is just general wear and tear of a full season, and sometimes pitchers, they just they got to push through some stuff. So I'm not overly concerned. The fastball velo was good today as well, and like I said, the slider, it generated plenty of whiffs. It was 44% whiff pitch. It just not a ton of called strikes. He threw it a lot. So yeah, I think teams are just going to be very aggressive with him, like they are with Kirby, and it's going to be his job to make sure that he gets chases outside of the zone so he can expand it.
So Andres Munoz redemption this afternoon. Kind of. He did give up the single to Vasquez, which, by the way, Christian Vasquez, seriously, like, hasn't hit at all this year, and then he goes 3 for 4 today. He was just kind of a pest all series long.
Team
like
Maldonado.
Right. Exactly. Also Vasquez, former Astros catcher, of course. Michael A. Taylor advances to second, but Munoz is able to hold him there. So nice to see. Nice little confidence boost. And obviously, the Mariners, again, playing 13 straight out of the break.
Yeah.
And their bullpen being in complete disarray with how much guys have been used. I mean, Paul Sewald's been just run into the ground here, used 5 out of 6 days before today. Thankfully got a day off today finally. But they were able to manage, because you and I, again, we were talking amongst ourselves during the game, and we're like, this bullpen with where it's at right now, having to hold a 1-run lead against this offense.
They're looks like they're using the bouncy balls today too. Like, it's just it's 80 degrees and sunny, and it's just like, this is the perfect.
Yeah, it was basically a home run derby today.
Yeah. And so you're just kind of sitting there like, and to our credit, Munoz gave up hard contact, like a lot of it. Like,
sure.
3 of the 4 batters he faced, like, absolutely crushed the ball. So yeah, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. But yeah, Munoz is struggling lately. So at the end of the day, he got 3 outs and didn't give up a run, and that's really the only thing we care about. But
yeah,
it is something.
He's hanging that slider a bit.
He is.
He's kind of daring teams or hitters to just drive that ball 50 million miles up to the moon.
Yeah. What was interesting about today's outing, though, didn't throw it. Typically he's 65-66% slider. Today it was the opposite. He was 66% fastball. Now it was 33% four seam, 33% two seam, but it's a lot of fastballs for Andres, which might tell you how he feels about his command of the slider right now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that he probably doesn't have a ton of confidence in that pitch at the moment, right? Probably doesn't last that long, because, again, like I said the other day, Munoz is a great pitcher, right? This is going to happen. You're going to hit bumps in the road, whatever. He'll work through it. Right. But yeah, right now,
we saw it last year too. Like,
I don't feel super confident when he takes the mound at the moment, but he'll get there. He'll get back on track. So not something to be too worried about.
It would be really nice if somebody could step up and kind of take on a high leverage role situation.
Sure.
And maybe that's Baroa when he comes back up. Maybe the Mariners go and get a guy. And I mean, I'm not talking like go get another Andres Munoz, but can you go get another Justin Topa at least? Or do you have that guy already? And can you just get him to the big leagues already? But yeah, it's kind of a rough day for the bullpen. In theory, Brash was actually okay. Didn't have great command of the slider, but if Teo makes a pretty routine catch out in right field, he gets out of that, giving up just the one inherited runner, and nobody cares. So,
and he didn't give up a hard hit ball today. So
no.
Yeah, he's looked a lot better lately. I don't think we've really talked about that on here.
Sure.
We talked about it on our Patreon, but yeah, Brash has looked a lot better as of like for the last month or so.
Yeah, a lot fewer walks. It just Brash is a time bomb. At some point, he's going to walk 3 guys in a row. Like,
Sure. It's going
to happen. And I'm not saying you have to live with it. It's something he has to fix, but dude's still pretty good. Got 3 whiffs today, 4 called strikes. So 7 of his 14 pitches were no damage strikes. So yeah, he was fine. Like, just some bad luck, bad defense, more accurately. But yeah, Brash was fine today. Not super sharp. The slider, he couldn't really. He threw a really good one to Correa to end the inning, but aside from that, the slider was just kind of it was okay, but it wasn't anything special. But hey, you know what? Quick shout out to Gabe Spire and Justin Topa, who have also been used quite a bit recently.
Yeah.
And they both came out and they were really good. In particular, Gabe Spire, who went against the heart of the Twins lineup with all those lefties and just dominated them. So yeah, Spire, we'll see if he survives the deadline. I bet there are going to be a lot of teams interested in him, but him and Topa, again, kind of the unsung heroes of the day. They kept the score where it was, and the Mariners offense, unfortunately, was not able to add on, but they scored 8. So, like, kind of hard to be too upset about that.
You're listening to the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Thank you again for making us your first listen after the Mariners beat the Twins 8-7 at Target Field to win the series 2-1. Again, they have an off day tomorrow, but on Friday, you can catch them playing the Diamondbacks on the Mariners' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. So speaking of the bullpen, the Mariners made a trade today. Very, very small trade, but a trade nonetheless. It is chill season after all, so we are going to talk about it. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it probably, but yeah, they got an interesting arm that might factor into the bullpen at some point here. They acquired right-handed pitcher Trent Thornton from the Toronto Blue Jays for infielder Mason McCoy, who we've talked about. He has had a decent year down in AAA, but doesn't get a chance to make his major league debut with Seattle. So maybe he gets an opportunity in Toronto. We'll see. But yeah, Thornton's kind of interesting. Former starter, high spin rate guy, very high spin rate guy, both on the fastball and the curveball. Has a sweeper that has produced some good results over the last 2 years. He's thrown like 5 innings this year, 1.6 ERA, somewhere in that ballpark. But obviously very small sample size on that front. But what do you think about Thornton? Something interesting here, or just another dude?
It's the Mariners and a pitcher, so there's always something interesting here. But actually, Thornton does have a pretty decent track record of some success at the big league level. He made 29 starts back in 2019. He was okay, kind of number 5 stuff. And then it's been hit or miss with him, but there are a lot of things to like here, including, high fastball spin, which is nice, obviously, and good curveball spin, which is always nice. Again, typically the better the spin, the better the stuff, but that's not always the case. And yeah, like you mentioned, there was a sweeper that he threw a lot last year, and it was actually his best pitch. So I'm thinking that they might see him as, it'll look different, but essentially Justin Topa, because I think it's going to be 92 to 96 with good run on the fastball and kind of a sweeping slider. And he does have a curveball, a hammer that he can drop on hitters on occasion. So I think what this is about in particular, what their thought process is with him, is let's simplify the repertoire, right? Like let's get him to.
You had some stank on that repertoire.
Yeah. Let's get him to the 3 pitches. Like, because right now he throws 4 pitches. Let's cut it down to 2. Let's get him fastballs. Let's get him fastball, sweeper, and then occasionally drop the curveball on him. I think that's kind of what they're going to do. The curveball and the fastball have been hit hard this year, but again, it's only been like 8 innings or something like that.
5.
So, yeah, so the sweeper is probably the best pitch, and the curveball was okay last year, but it really is, when you look at the numbers against last year, his best pitch were sinker and sweeper, and the curveball is okay. So to me, I think this is kind of the idea here is like, let's just get another Justin Topa, where it's going to be a running 2-seamer in, the sinker, and then the sweeper away, and then occasionally drop the curveball. That is my guess for how they plan to use him. But the fact that he does have starter, experience, it could be that he is down in AAA and they're going to try and stretch him out in case they can't get to a price they like in the number 5 starter market. But I think this is just good quality depth, and you got him for basically free.
Yeah, pretty much. And let's just say it, the Blue Jays, not particularly the greatest organization when it comes to developing pitching. So,
Sure.
yeah, maybe there's something there that the Mariners have identified that the Blue Jays just could not. So, again, we say it time and time again, whenever they add a reliever, even when it's guys like Zach Muckenhirn, you got to at least not completely discard it, because
Sure.
they've earned that reputation. So,
And Thornton's better stuff than
right.
Muckenhirn. He's better than Sweet. Like, he's
Yeah.
a legitimate, I think he's a legitimate middle relief option at
Yeah.
the big league level. He might be better than Festa, but it's just about depth, right? Just building depth. And again, anytime you can get an interesting arm for free, no
Yeah.
offense to Mason McCoy, you should do it.
Yeah.
Because Thornton's going to help the Mariners more than McCoy ever could.
Right. So, best to Mason McCoy. He might
Yep.
be able to get a major league shot because of the defense. Obviously, the bat has been virtually nothing. But defense is really good. And he's had a pretty good year down in Tacoma on that front. So, best to him. And we'll see how that goes. And we'll see how or what they do rather with Trent Thornton for the rest of the year, and see if he gets a shot at the major league level at some point with Seattle as they continue to churn their bullpen, and maybe if they make a trade here with one of their relievers, spot opens up for Thornton. So yeah, all right. Anything else before we get out of here, Colby? As you are frozen on my end. And it looks like you were completely frozen on my end. So that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners post-game show. For Colby Patnode, who is frozen. Look at that face. Look at that face. I'm Trident Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez. That's TANEGNZLZ. And Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok as well over at Locked On Mariners. That's one word, Locked On Mariners. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.